Hello, welcome to the Hugging Face crash course. My name is Vivin Arana and I'll guide you in step-by-step details on how to use Hugging Face and everything that you need to know about Hugging Face in this short crash course. In this particular course, we will be covering first the introduction to Hugging Face, where we will cover what is Hugging Face, overview of Transformers library, and installation and setup. I'll try to keep it short and sweet, so let's go jump into what is Hugging Face. Hugging Face is a company that has become synonymous with state of art natural language processing (NLP). Their mission is to democratize AI by providing easy to use tools and models that allow anyone to leverage the power of machine learning for various NLP tasks. Hugging Face offers several open source libraries, with the most popular being the Transformers library. Some of the key points are mission. The mission is to democratize AI and make it accessible to everyone. The products are open source libraries like transformers, datasets, tokenizers, model hub, and AI services. The community, active community contributing to the growth and enhancement of Hugging Face tools. If you visit the Hugging Face website, you'll probably see all the tremendous resources that are available to you. Next, we're going to look at overview of the Transformers library. The Transformers library by Hugging Face provides an interface for using pre-trained models for various NLP tasks. It supports both PyTorch and TensorFlow, making it versatile for different machine learning workshops. Some of the key features are pre-trained models, where you get access to thousands of pre-trained models for tasks like text classification, generation, translation, and more. Ease of use, high-level APIs for quick implementation. Flexibility, low-level APIs for customization and fine-tuning. Multi-framework support, works with PyTorch and TensorFlow. Now, some of the supported tasks are text classification, named entity recognizer, question answering, text generation, machine translation, and summarization. And we'll look at all of these in detail. Next, I want to go into installation and setup. Now, before you start using the Transformers library, you need to install it along with its dependencies. This particular section will guide you through the installation process. So just before we jump into the installation, let's look at some of the requirements. We need Python 3.6 or later. If you not have it installed, just go to Python website and you can install it. You need pip, which is the Python package installer. I already have it installed. If you want to check, again, it's on Python website. Then we'll go into step-by-step installation, where we'll go through the installing the Transformers library, installing PyTorch or TensorFlow depending on which one you like, and then finally verifying the installation. Then we'll go into setting up a virtual environment, which is optional, where you create a virtual environment, activate the virtual environment, and install Transformers and dependency with the virtual environment. Now, if you want to follow along, you can follow along in the next steps and pause the video wherever need. And if you have any questions or comment during that, just leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So let's start with the step-by-step installation. So I'll go back here to my command prompt. I'm using Mac. The commands are much similar in Windows too. So first step is installing the Transformers library, where you open your terminal or your command prompt and run the following command: pip3. I have pip3 installed. Some people have pip installed, so depending on which, you can use that. Install Transformers. It might take some time. I have done this so many times before, so it might be pretty quick for me, but sometimes it takes time. So that's the first step. Next one is installing PyTorch or TensorFlow. Now, depending on which framework you prefer to use, install either PyTorch or TensorFlow. Now, for PyTorch, what you have to do is pip3 install torch. Again, I have it installed, so it probably should be faster for me. Next one is pip3. So we have installed PyTorch. Next is TensorFlow. Install TensorFlow. Again, now if it takes longer for you, it's just because this is the first time you're doing it. I'm not, so that's why it's pretty quick for me. I'll clear this out. So now that we have done with installing PyTorch and TensorFlow, the next one is verifying your installation. Now after installation, you can verify it by importing the library in a Python script or an interactive Python session. I will use an interactive Python session by just saying Python 3. First thing, I'm going to say import transformers. This will import transformers for me. There you go, it's done. Next, I want to say print transformers, if I spelled it right, dot underscore underscore version underscore underscore should give me the version. So I have 4.42.3. So perfect. So I have everything that I need to build projects. I'm gonna go and exit out of this, clear this in, so we have a clean slate. Next thing that we mentioned in our slides was setting up a virtual environment, which is an optional for you. If you want to do it, but it's good to follow along because we might create environments and use it. Just to avoid conflicts with other Python packages, is recommended to always use virtual environment. So how do we create a virtual environment? So you go here, and I'm using Python 3, so Python 3 -m virtual environment venv transformers underscore environments. Just give a name, and I've created a virtual environment for myself. So this is the environment that I'm going to use. Now on Windows, to activate the virtual environment, you'll probably have to do on command prompt transformers underscore env slash scripts slash activate. This is how you would activate a environment in Windows, but I'm using Mac. So what I'm going to do on my machine is I'm going to say source transformers underscore env slash bin slash activate. And there you go, my virtual environment is activated. I can just tell based on the thing here. Next is install transformers and dependencies within the virtual environment. So in here I can say pip3 install transformers. It's going to go through the process, download everything, and have it ready for me. So wait for a couple of minutes, and there we go, we have it. Clear this. And next is installing Torch or TensorFlow, depending on what I want. So I'm going to just go and say pip3 install Torch. So if you see, this is the first time I'm doing it in this particular environment, so it's going to take some time. And once it's done, it's going to say it's completed. And if you it's like it up to you which framework you want to use, Torch or TensorFlow. Depending on that, you can install Torch or TensorFlow. I have a tutorial on TensorFlow available, which covers in depth everything about TensorFlow. So if you ever want to go through that, look at my channel and you'll probably get to learn TensorFlow. It is not required for this particular course, but it's good to know. So if you want to go through that, I've created a few months back, you can go through that session. So once you have these things, now you have everything completed based on our installation and setup process, which is our first video on Hugging Face. Once you're completed with this, what we can do is we can get a simple we can just have an example where we can create a quick example on setting up a project with transformers library. Let's go ahead and try to do that here. So first, since we have already activated a virtual environment, I don't need to reactivate it. But if you create one virtual environment, you can go and activate it, and we can start with creating a Python script. So if I want to create a Python script, let me just go and open Sublime Text. That's what I use. I'm going to save it on my Hugging Face project. I'll call it example.py, and inside here I'm going to say from transformers library, I want to import pipeline. So the first line where I'm importing the pipeline. Next, I am creating a classifier And we'll go in detail of all these things in the future videos, but just for now, let's follow along. I'll use the pipeline that I've imported, and I want to do in this particular case sentiment analysis. Now I am sure you know what sentiment analysis is, but if you have no idea what it is, what it does is every time you say something or do something, there is a sentiment involved below it. There can be positive or negative. For example, I'm saying I'm very happy today, it's a positive sentiment. I am sad today, it's a negative sentiment. So whenever someone gives you a bunch of text or talk to you, you kind of analyze it. Now how does machine analyze it? Using sentiment analysis. So that's what I want to use, and I'm going to store what the result of this sentiment analysis in result variable. I'll use the classifier and I'll say I love using Hugging Faces Transformers library, and then I'm going to print the result. Now so I'll save this file. I'm going to go to my command prompt, go to desktop and go to Hugging Face where I have my project, and here I'm going to say Python 3 example.py. You can ignore the warnings that are there, but now what it's doing is it's going through the process of making sure it imports the pipeline, takes that text and calls the classifier function with this particular text, and it will give us the result of what it thinks of the sentiment for this statement is. So it's saying that if you see here, it's saying fail to import the Keras library. So that is another thing that is required. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is also installed. I'm going to run this here, and once that is ready, let me just go back again and run the example.py. And there you go. This is you can ignore the warnings as I mentioned, but look at this. This is the final thing. So based on the text that I've used, I love using Hugging Faces Transformers library. It thinks it's positive. Now let's go and say I hate, and run through the same thing again. And now you see it's a negative sentiment of this particular line. So that's what sentiment analysis is, and that's how transformers help us using the sentiment analysis library on determining whether some text is positive or negative. It is used quite a lot in different organizations where, for example, you have a survey and people are giving you survey based on their experience, and you don't have time to go through all these survey results. So based on the text that they enter in a free form field, you can just look at the sentiment analysis and accordingly automate your email replies to them. For example, if I run a coffee shop and I have customers who saying, oh, I love the experience, and I can automate my responses by looking at that sentiment analysis, and when it says it's positive, I'll say, oh, thank you for coming, stopping by at our coffee shop. Thank you for the feedback, it helps us a lot, something like that. Whereas if they give a negative feedback, I'll probably automate a reply saying that, oh, let us know how we can help make your experience better, send them some coupons or something. So I mean, you can send coupons for both positive and negative. I would never say that do it only for negative, because then everybody will leave you negative feedback. But that's how you can probably run your system, automate things using AI, using this particular library. So that's all I wanted to cover in this particular section. This completes the detailed first section on introduction to Hugging Face. Um, so it covers what Hugging Face is, an overview of Transformers library, and how to install and set up the library to get started. If you had any issues or problems, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.